Hello everyone, and welcome to this session number 17 of video lecture series Anti-9 wave propagation. And this lecture is the second part of the topic ionospheric propagation. In our last part or the first part of this ionospheric propagation, we have understood that ionosphere can be assumed to be made of plasma medium. A plasma medium is one in which positive and negative charge exist simultaneously in such a manner that the average charge density is zero across the medium. And we also understood that these plasma mediums are having an important property that if there exists some sort of disturbance or due to some sort of disturbance, if positive and negative charge get separate out from this medium, the medium will try to pull these charges back and try to make the average charge density zero. And for this purpose, it applies some restoring forces, and that restoring forces produces the oscillations of free electrons, which performs the simple harmonic motion. We extend this restoring force criteria or the restoring force phenomena and simple harmonic motion phenomena of free electrons in plasma medium to find the permittivity of the plasma medium, or I should say the permittivity of the ionosphere itself. And we found that this permittivity is given by epsilon v, which is equal to epsilon 0 times 1 minus omega p square upon omega square, where omega p is the plasma frequency, it's a constant, and omega square is the frequency of the electromagnetic wave, which was supposed to be propagating through this ionospheric medium. Okay, so at the end of the last lecture, we had been through some of the conclusions, and the conclusions was where an important conclusion was that the frequencies or the frequency of the waves with frequency less than plasma frequency omega p will be reflected back by the ionosphere, and the frequencies greater than omega p will pass through this ionosphere without any attenuation. But if we consider collisions inside the ionosphere, some energy of the waves get absorbed by the free electrons, which collide with immobile ions and the molecules, and because of that, the waves with frequency omega greater than plasma frequency, which pass through the ionosphere, will get attenuated. There will be some attenuation in that particular expression, and the waves with frequency less than plasma frequency, they will, or definitely they will be reflected back, but the reflection is not perfect, rather it is partial. Some of the energy of this reflected wave will be absorbed by the medium also. Okay, now today we are going, or we are enlarging our analysis and trying to find the complex permittivity of this plasma medium, or better is to say complex permittivity of the ionosphere, including these collisions of free electrons with the immobile ions. Okay, so the analysis will be same as that performed in our last lecture. There will be little changes that will be incorporated in the this derivation. So assume that we are having free electron, and that electrons are displaced by electromagnetic wave in plasma, and corresponding to which there exists an electric field, and this electric field will try to pull any sort of deflection, any sort of free electron back in the plasma medium itself, so that there will be average charge density should become zero. Okay, so the restoring force is given by minus E into E, where this capital E we had already defined as rho s upon epsilon v. So this is the restoring force working on the charge particle. Now, if we assume that electrons are moving randomly across the plasma medium due to the electromagnetic wave which is propagating through a plasma, I hope you are understanding the phenomenon. You are having a plasma medium. Okay, the ionosphere is supposed to be a plasma medium. and in this plasma medium, an electromagnetic wave is passing through. The electromagnetic wave will produce a disturbance, and because of this disturbance, we suppose that two layers of surface charge density rho s will be produced at the two edges of the plasma medium as shown in the last lecture. And because of these two edges, these two separate edges of positive and negative charges, there exists an electric field. This electric field will apply a restoring force, and that restoring force will try to pull back the free electrons which are trying to move outside the plasma. Okay, so equation 150 is that particular restoring force. If this electrons moving with random velocity, and the velocity is supposed to be sinusoidally varying phasor, which is due to this velocity of the electron is also due to the electromagnetic wave propagating through the plasma. So this velocity given by this v phasor, mass of the electron is supposed to be m, and if tau is the duration between two consecutive collisions of electron with one charge particle with one ion and to the other ion, that means between the electron is moving, it strikes with ion, loses the energy, then it starts moving again, and again it strikes with other ion. In this manner, between any two consecutive collision, if the interval passed is given by tau, if the average interval is tau, or the 1 upon tau, frequency of the collision, that means the number of collisions per second is given by nu. So in that case, the force, frictional force due to, you can assume this collision as the friction force which tries to oppose the velocity of electron is given by mv upon tau. This is really very simple. mv is the change in momentum, and tau is the time duration between two events, between two collisions. So mv by tau is the friction force, equivalent friction force, and this friction force is always opposite to that of the velocity. And that's why this restoring force and the friction force both are trying to stop a moving electron in presence of electromagnetic wave in plasma and try to pull them back in the plasma itself. So jointly, the net force working on the electron is given by minus of E into E minus of mv into nu, where nu is the frequency of collisions, number of collisions per second for an electron. It's an average number. Nu is an average number. Okay. So, and we also know that from Newton's law, F will be given by m dv by dt, the mass into acceleration. So if V is supposed to be a time varying quantity, or if V is supposed to be instantaneous form, then this expression looks like this. If we represent V, E and everything in phasor, the equation looks like this. Okay, this dV by dt will be given by j omega V. Okay, so from this expression we find V given by minus of E into E phasor. Now this E is phasor upon m nu, nu is the collision frequency, plus j omega m. Omega is the frequency of wave which is propagating through the medium. Okay. Once we have V, we had already proved in our last lecture that the current density due to this wave in the plasma medium because of the disturbance in free electron is given by minus of E into capital N into V, where V is the phasor velocity. Substituting this phasor velocity from 153, we find this is the current density. Using this current density, as we had already performed the same thing in our last lecture, using this current density into the Maxwell's equation, del cross H is equals to j omega epsilon 0 E plus J. This J is the current density. We use this expression for J from equation 154 here, and by properly manipulating the quantity by keeping j omega epsilon 0 E outside or taking common, the expression looks like this. Okay, many things. The expression looks like this. We multiply this j omega inside and then take a minus sign outward. The expression looks like this. Later on, by the simpler manipulation, we find this upper quantity here, Ne square upon m epsilon 0 as the omega p. We had already defined this as a plasma frequency in our last lecture. So this is the plasma frequency here, omega p square. So this omega p square upon omega will be divided, omega p square upon omega into omega minus j nu. By performing the rationalization for this omega minus j nu, we multiply both the sides of this particular part, upward and denominator, the denominator and numerator part, by omega plus jv, and we found that this quantity, this epsilon v into epsilon 0 times this will be, it will be modified in as in equation 158. If you look at equation number 155 here, this term epsilon 0 into this particular term is the resultant permittivity of the ionosphere, considering ionosphere to be having properties of plasma medium. If we consider ionosphere to be a plasma medium, in that case this particular portion is the permittivity of the plasma. Okay, and once we have this as the permittivity of the plasma, we represent this whole quantity by epsilon v, where epsilon 0 is absolute permittivity and this remaining quantity is the relative permittivity, or better is known as relative dielectric constant. So the relative dielectric constant is given by epsilon r is equals to 1 minus omega p square upon omega into omega minus j nu. We multiply this particular portion in numerator and denominator by omega plus j upon v, and separating the real and imaginary part, we found that omega epsilon r, the relative dielectric constant or relative permittivity of the ionosphere, is given by this particular expression. Okay, as you can see in 158, the expression here and the expression given in our last lecture in equation number 143, we will find here that the comparing equation number 156 and equation number 143, that the dielectric constant or the permittivity of the medium when you are considering plasma is given by equation number 156, and the same when you are not considering collisions in the plasma is given by equation number 143 in our last step. So in this manner we had modified the expression for permittivity or dielectric constant as seen in equation number 156 as compared to that same in equation 143. Now we have to find, can we or we have to check that can we get rid of this effect of collisions on this dielectric constant or on this permittivity. Okay, in order to do that, we find that the epsilon r is written as this particular expression. Okay, simple. Now for any lossy medium, the relative dielectric constant is generally given as epsilon r is equals to epsilon r dash minus j sigma upon omega epsilon 0. This expression is from our knowledge of transmission line theory. Okay, wave propagation through any lossy medium. Okay, so comparing these two, we find that epsilon r dash, this is the real part, the epsilon r dash is given by this positive real quantity. This is the relative permittivity epsilon r dash, or real part of the relative permittivity of the plasma, 1 minus omega p square upon omega square v square. And comparing the imaginary parts, we find that sigma is the conductivity of the medium. Definitely ionosphere is conducting medium because it is carrying large amount of free charge carriers. So correspondingly we have a conductivity, and we can find this conductivity given by this sigma upon comparing the two parts. So sigma upon omega epsilon 0 will be equals to omega p square nu by omega upon omega square plus nu square. From comparison we find that sigma is given by equation number 160, as you can see here. Okay, this is the conductivity. These results are very important from the study of ionospheric point of view. Now what is nu? Nu is the collision frequency of electrons colliding with immobile ions in the ionosphere. We know very well that as we move upward, density of medium decreases. At the lower edge of ionosphere, density is large. As you move upward, density decreases. Correspondingly, number of collision will also decrease. So at lower altitude, at the altitude of suppose 90 km, as you can see, this is on the basis of studies. At the altitude of 90 km from Earth's surface, or at the lower edge of ionosphere, the collision frequency is 10 to the power 6 Hertz. Per second, there are 10 to the power 6 collisions. In turn, at the height of 300 kilometers, the collision frequency become 10 to the power 3 hertz only. Okay, so as you can see, with increasing altitude, collision frequency decreases. Okay, now if in the motive of expressing these facts here is that at the lower edge where the highest density of material is available, you are having maximum number of collision given by 10 to the power 6. Okay, now if suppose the wave you are transmitting through the plasma is having omega very greater than this 10 to the power 6 hertz. 10 to the power 6 hertz is 1 megahertz. Okay, so if the frequency of wave which is propagating, which you want to propagate, is having frequency greater than this 10 to the power 6 hertz or 1 megahertz. So if omega is very less as compared to, sorry, if nu is very less as compared to omega, in that case this nu by omega is very small. Okay, at one side you are having nu is equals to 1 megahertz, and suppose you are considering omega to be 100 megahertz or suppose 10 megahertz. So in that case, this quantity is very small. This quantity is very small, and correspondingly you can consider sigma to be very as later on we are performing here. At epsilon r dash, if omega is very small as compared to omega, epsilon r dash can be approximated as 1 minus omega p square upon omega square. Where what is omega p square? Omega p square is n into e square divided by some epsilon 0 into something. The expression is given upward. Okay. And at the same time, if nu, the collision frequency is very small as compared to the wave propagating, the frequency of wave propagation, sigma is approximately 0. If collision is very small, then conductivity of the medium with respect to that particular frequency is approximately 0. And in that case, if sigma is 0, if epsilon r dash is 1 minus 1 upon p square, this expression here, this relative permittivity will be equals to just 1 minus omega p square upon omega square. And the result 158 is same as that presented in equation number 143 or 144. Hence, if the frequency of wave to be transmitted through ionosphere is very large as compared to the collision frequency of the plasma medium, in that case, there will be no effect of collision on the permittivity of the medium and on the propagation characteristic of the wave itself through the ionosphere. Okay, it's an important conclusion here. Later on, perhaps I have written the same thing in the notes also. So the important thing here is that epsilon r is given by 1 minus omega p square upon omega square, and omega p square is just a minute. Omega p square is given by n e square upon epsilon 0 m. Okay. Now n is the number of free charge carriers available at a particular height. E is the electronic charge. M is the mass of electron, and epsilon 0 is the absolute permittivity. All these three things are constant. You substitute it there. You substitute 2 pi f in the place of omega square. Omega is the angular frequency, and correspondingly you represent omega in terms of 2 pi f. When you perform the complete calculation, you find that epsilon r dash will be approximately equal to 1 minus 81 n upon f square, where n is the free charge density at any particular height. Okay, and we are having numerical results for this n. We are having different graphs. You can check your textbook for the same. At different altitude, it is possible to find the free electric charge density. How much electric charge density is available at 90 kilometer, at 100 kilometer, at 300 kilometer, at 1000 kilometer. This is all available to you in terms of some graphs, and you can use those values of n here to find the relative permittivity with respect to or in this particular sense. Okay, so if you consider, keep this thing in mind. If you consider that the frequency of electromagnetic wave which is propagating through ionosphere is very large as compared to the collision frequency. In that case, the relative permittivity is given by 1 minus omega p square upon omega square. Or equivalently, the same result can be written as omega epsilon r will be given by 1 minus 81n upon f square as given in equation 160. It's an important result, and later on we will use this result for finding some good conclusions also. Okay, so the conclusion is here. Therefore, even considering collisions of electron with gas molecules and ion, if transmitting signal is having very high frequency and collision frequency, then the expression for relative permittivity are same in the case in which we do not consider collision. If you consider collision or if you do not consider the collision, there will be no effect of this collision if frequency of the wave propagating is very, very large as compared to the collision frequency. Okay, now there are some important or some interesting conclusions about all things what we had studied till now. First thing is ionosphere extends from 90 kilometers to several thousand kilometers from the surface of Earth. One thing. Okay. Second thing, free electron density is 0 at the bottom edge of ionosphere. Obviously, ionosphere is separated from the layer below itself by the ionization characteristic of the medium. So the lowest layer of ionosphere is having charge density 0 just below this particular lowest edge. And as you enter the ionization ionosphere, the charge density starts increasing, and up to a certain height it increases to a maxima. And if you move more upward, you find that the charge density is again decreasing. Okay, so in this manner, at the lowest stage of the ionosphere, you are having 0 electron density. Afterward, as we move at more height, electron density increases to a peak value at a certain height. This depends on day or night duration. Obviously, this changes. This depends on many different criteria of the nature itself and position of Earth with respect to Sun. These are some of the reasons. If you move further in upward direction, electron density again decreases. These are some of the conclusions you need to keep in your mind while you are studying or while you are designing a ionospheric length. As given in equation 161, for collision frequency very, very less as compared to the frequency of the signal, epsilon r or epsilon r dash, relative permittivity assuming collision frequency and relative permittivity not assuming collision frequency will have the same results. And it has it is a function of electron density, capital N, which is 1 minus 81 n upon f square, or square root of 1 minus 81 n upon f square. Okay. For omega greater than omega p, wave travels into deeper ionosphere and increases, and corresponding to 161, equation number 161, epsilon r dash decreases. What does this mean? This means, suppose you are having a wave, or as we had already understood that as height increases, number of free charge carriers increases. When number of free charge carriers increases, n also increases. The number of free charge carriers is just the n. So n also increases. When n increases, 81 n upon f square. For a particular frequency or for a particular wave, f is constant. So as n increases, 81 n upon f square also increases. And when this increases, 1 minus 81 n upon f square decreases. So correspondingly, epsilon r dash also decreases. So the conclusion is, as you move upward in the atmosphere, epsilon r dash, or relative permittivity of the medium, or relative dielectric constant of the ionosphere, decreases as you move upward up to a certain height. Okay, certain height at which the electron density become maximum. So up to that particular limit, with increasing altitude, epsilon r dash decreases. Okay, higher epsilon r dash leads to higher square root of epsilon r, or higher refractive indices. So obviously, if you are moving from lower edge of the ionosphere to higher edges, you find that epsilon r dash decreases, and epsilon r dash, square root of epsilon r dash is known as refractive index of the medium. So as you move upward, refractive index of the medium decreases. That means the medium become rarer as compared to the lower mediums at the lower edges. Okay, so as you move upward in ionosphere, medium become rarer. So when waves will travel from lower edges to higher edges, they will travel from denser medium to rare medium, and when they perform the same according to Snell's law, they will bend away from the normals. Okay, later on the same thing is shown in terms of an experiment, a figure, as you can see here. So here we are considering that this is the boundary of ionosphere. This is lower edge of the ionosphere. I have written over there, and there are no free charge carriers below this particular layer, okay, or at the boundary of this layer. So absence of ions or free electron here, and correspondingly the relative permittivity here is given by 1. Epsilon R0 is given by 1. We are considering this ionosphere to be made of parallel layers, as you can see here. Several parallel layers of same thickness are there, and every layer is having some refractive relative permittivity or relative dielectric constant given by epsilon R1, epsilon R2, epsilon R3, epsilon Rn, and along a particular layer this quantity is constant. This epsilon R1 is constant. So for this particular layer, relative permittivity is epsilon R1. For this particular layer, it is epsilon R2, and so on and so on. Now suppose a wave incidents at the lower edge of the ionosphere with angle of incidence θ0, as you can see here. Okay, obviously as you move upward, the medium become rarer, so the wave will bend away, or the ray will bend away from the normal, and the angle of reflection become θ1, and it incidents from A to point B on the next layer, as you can see in the figure. At the next layer, the angle of incidence is same as the angle of reflection θ1, so this becomes θ1, and it bends more from the normal as compared to ray AB, and it follows the path BC at an angle of reflection θ2. And similarly, at every instant, the wave is bending away from the normal, and at the nth layer, if we consider, the angle of reflection becomes θn, and the angle of incidence will be θn-1 in general. Okay, so we are using this figure to find some good result. Assume the ionosphere is lossless. Lossless means sigma is equals to 0. Approximately conductivity of the ionosphere is 0, and the collision frequency is very less than omega. So you can use the epsilon r is equals to, or the relative permittivity equals to 1 minus omega p square upon omega, or 1 minus 81 n upon f square. Okay, the result you can use. Using Snell's law, if you apply Snell's law at point A, then at point A, the wave incidenting from a medium having relative dielectric constant equals to 1, or the refractive index is equal to 1. We know that refractive indices and dielectric constant are related by a root, by the relation of square root. The refractive index of a particular medium is given by square root of the dielectric constant. So here the refractive index is 1, and here the refractive index is epsilon R1. Okay, at point, we are talking about point A. So wave is incidenting from a medium with having refractive index 1 to a medium having refractive index square root of epsilon R1. Angle of incidence is θ0, and angle of incidence here is θ1. In that case, the Snell's law will say that sine of angle of incidence to sine of angle of refraction will be equal to refractive index of second medium with respect to the first one. Refractive index of the medium in which the wave is going with respect to the medium from which the wave is incidental. So that will be equal to square root of epsilon R1 upon square root of epsilon R2. This quantity is 1, as we have already assumed. So sine θ0 upon sine θ1 will be given by epsilon R1, or sine θ0 will be equal to square root of epsilon R1 upon sine θ1. Applying applying the same Snell's law at point B, C, D, E, and so on, you find that in general it can be written as sine θ0 is equals to square root of epsilon R1 sine θ1, and so on and so on. Okay, from above expression, for this expression, we will use this expression to write a general relation like this, like considering sine θ0 is equals to epsilon Rn times sine θn. You can compare very easily. Okay. Now we are taking an assumption. We want to find an angle of incidence θi for θ0. That means we want an incident wave at the lower edge of the refractive medium, at the lower edge of the ionosphere, such that the angle of incidence is equals to θi in such a manner that it reflects from every layer and from nth layer, and at the nth layer the angle of refraction become 90 degree. I hope it is clear to you. Again, I explain the same thing on the basis of this figure. We want this θ0 to be equal to some specific value such that when you transmit this wave or when this wave is incident at point A at the lower edge of ionosphere, at that particular angle theta I, it reflects or it refracts at point here with angle theta 1, it refracts here at theta 2, theta 3 and so on and so on. So at the at nth layer, this refraction angle, this theta n become 90 degree. Okay, so in that particular case, when you compare the same thing, I want to say you in this particular expression that for that particular value of theta 0 given by theta I, this theta n should be equal to 90 degree. Comparing the two things, we have sine theta I as written here. Sine theta I is equals to square root of epsilon Rn into sine 90, and sine 90 is 1. So sine theta I will be equal to square root of epsilon Rn. Okay, and for nth layer, where is this nth layer? So suppose this nth layer is at some height capital H, where the electron density or free electron density is given by capital N. So using equation number 161, sine theta I can be written as square root of 1 minus 81 n upon f square. What is this 1 minus 81 n upon f square? This is the relative dielectric constant of the medium at an height h, where the free electron density is capital N. Okay, so this is the angle. Theta I is that incident angle. If you want, look, what is the significance of this equation number 164 or this equation just above the equation number 164 is, if you want that a wave should be transmitted at the lower edge of, or a wave should incident at the lower edge of the ionosphere at certain angle in such a manner that after multiple refraction at different layers in the above figure, at particular height or from a layer at a particular height, it refracts at an angle of 90 degree. Then what will be that angle? That angle could be find out from this equation number 164. Again, I will explain the same thing or the same thing I have also explained in terms of an example. So that will be more helpful for us. So the comment here is, if a wave with frequency f is transmitted at an angle theta more than theta I, keep this thing in mind. If you are sending a wave at an angle theta I, the refraction angle at a height h become 90 degree. If you incident the angle, the wave at angle theta more than theta I, in that case, the refraction angle at that particular height h will be greater than 90. Means at that particular point, the wave reflects back towards the receiver itself. The total internal reflection phenomena is going to take place. So, if a wave with frequency f is transmitted at an angle theta more than theta I, then it will reflect back. Where theta is the angle of incidence on lower edge of ionosphere, then it will be reflect back from a height at which electron density is given by capital. From which height it will reflect back? So it will reflect back from the height in which the free electron density is capital N. Okay, so here we are having an numerical for understanding this phenomenon. This phenomenon is very important. So suppose the question is like, at what angle of incidence to lower edge of ionosphere a wave of frequency 5 megahertz should be transmitted? Okay, you are having a frequency of 5 megahertz and you have to transmit it to the ionosphere. So at the lower edge, what should be the angle of incidence of this particular wave with frequency 5 megahertz, such that it is get reflected from a height of 100 kilometers from the Earth's surface? Such that, what's the meaning of this question? You can understand in this figure. So you are having a wave of 5 megahertz and it is incidenting at some angle. Okay, and you want that it should travel, it should move deeper inside the ionospheric layer up to a height of 100 kilometers. Suppose this height from this lower edge up to this particular end, this height is 10 kilometers, and we are assuming that this height, the lower edge is 90 kilometers above from the Earth's surface. Okay, so up to this point, up to this lower edge, it is 90 kilometers from Earth's surface. You want that reflection should take place at 100 kilometers from Earth's surface. So this thickness from this layer to this lower edge is 10 kilometers. So this wave with frequency 5 megahertz should be transmitted at an angle of incidence theta 0, such that it moves deeper and deeper up to 10 kilometers height, and at 10 kilometer height it should reflect back. Okay, So what we do, we find an angle for which this angle of refraction at the height of 100 kilometer or the 100 kilometer is 90 degree only. And then we say that if angle of incidence is more than this value, the wave will reflect back from the 100 kilometer altitude. Okay, so you can see here. So we assume that this value is theta I. Theta I is the value at which if you incident this 5 megahertz wave on the lower edge of the ionosphere, the wave will have angle of refraction equal to 90 degree at the height of 100 kilometer. And it is given to you that at the height of 100 kilometer, the electron density is given by 1.54 into 10 to the power 11. Okay, so what will be this angle theta I? So theta I will be given by sine inverse of square root of 1 minus 81n upon f square. When you perform the calculation, this become equal to 0.5. So it is sine inverse of sine inverse of square root of 0.5, that is approximately equals to 45 degree. So if angle of incidence is 45 degree, the wave will travel up to a distance of 10 kilometer in the ionosphere, or with respect to Earth, if you consider, the wave will travel up to a height of 100 kilometer with respect to Earth, and at the point of the height of 100 kilometer, it will refract at an angle of 90 degree from the normal. So if the angle of incidence is slightly more than 45 degree, it will reflect back. Okay, the angle of refraction will be greater than 90 degree and it will reflect back. And so the condition that it should get reflected will be satisfied. Okay, please go through this example. This example is very important in order to understand the phenomena. Now, we are extending the same idea to multiple frequencies. Suppose we are having two frequencies, F1 and F2. We are sending two frequencies F1 and F2 at same angle of incidence. Angle of incidence is same. Suppose the angle of incidence is anything, but they are incidenting on same angle of incidence, and F2 is greater than F1. Okay, in that case, F2 has to travel deeper into the ionosphere for getting reflected. If you want that at the same angle, you send two frequencies and both of them should be reflected from the ionosphere. The frequency with larger values will move deeper, will move up to more height. If in the last example, you are saying that at an angle 46 degree, the 5 megahertz wave will reflect back at a height of 100 kilometer, then another frequency of say 10 megahertz, which is greater than 5 megahertz, if it is incident at the same angle, it will be reflected from some height which is greater than 100 kilometer from the ionosphere itself. Okay, so to prove this result, we consider that both the waves are incident on the same angle theta I. So sine theta I for both of these waves, we consider sine theta I will be given by square root of 1 minus 81 n1 upon f1 square and square root of 1 minus 81 n2 upon f2 square. We consider that these two frequencies will be reflected from different heights, and at different height the free electron density is different. So it is having electron density n1 and it is having electron density n2, from which these two waves will reflected. Comparing these two, since angle of incidence is same for both, comparing these two, we find that n1 by f1 square is equals to n2 by f2 square. And since f1 is less than f2, we have n2 given by f2 by f1 whole square into n1, and obviously n2 will be greater than n1. So electron density n2 for f2 greater than f1, n2 is greater than n1. Okay, and layer with high electron density n2 will be deeper in the ionosphere than lower electron density.